Secretary ACRB and Senior Advisor and Head DST, Professor R.V. Grover, Member Atomic Energy Commission. Sri Vishal could not join with us for this inaugural session because of his bad health. And then we have Director NISER, Professor Amarendra, my colleague here at Pranay. And we have for this inaugural session, we have with us Dr. Satyapriya Rathar, Director Budget and IS. Then we have distinguished speakers like Mr. Ajit Singh Puri, and from NCAER we have a team of researchers and Sanjeev Purohit and other colleagues. And then we have officers from the Energy Department, Finance Department, Industry, Steel and Mines. We have with us Dr. A.K. Naik, Head NCPW, and we have with us the prestigious Ankishwar Award winner, scientist Professor Rajneesh Kumar from IIT Madras. And then we have with us other scientists from other institutes and other departments, Steel and Mines, Forest and Environment Department, Government of Odisha, then industry players, energy scientists, research scientists, and manufacturing projects, my research team, and people from media, and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I extend a warm welcome to all of you to our beautiful NISER campus. At the outset, let me thank the DST for the generous funding to set up the Center for Policy Research at NISER. And I also thank the Energy Department, Government of Odisha, and NCAER for collaborating with us for this policy dialogue. I thank all senior government officers, industry leaders, scientists, and researchers for coming here to share their valuable ideas. I hope you had a pleasant journey and having a comfortable stay on our campus. With the funding of DST, we have established the Center for Policy Research at NISER in March 2023. Our primary focus is energy transition in Eastern India, covering Odisha, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and West Bengal. These are all mineral-rich states, and if you look at the economic condition of these states, Odisha has the highest per capita income among these 5 states that we are covering: Odisha, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and West Bengal. And again, our director, since he's from Bengal, Bengal 2 years ago was leading it in this region, and now Bengal has declined in recent years. So that's how Odisha has the highest per capita income, followed by West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and Bihar. And the economy of Odisha is now a middle income state. Earlier it used to be called as a low income group state, but it is now a middle income state in the country. And among all the 28 states, Odisha ranks at 17th place in per capita income. And in the last 2 decades, Odisha has grown faster than the national average. This is largely driven by industrial output, and almost half of Odisha's GSTP is industrial output, of which mines and minerals are the major contributors. As per the estimate of CEEW, that is Center for Environment, Energy and Water, Odisha has the second highest per capita carbon emission in the country, which is next to Gujarat only. We should remember Gujarat has the 7th highest per capita income in the country, whereas Odisha ranks at 17th place. And Gujarat's per capita income is almost double that of Odisha. But Gujarat is highest, Gujarat is emitting the highest, and we are the second highest. So that is not a good indicator for Odisha. And our neighbors, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, have also 3rd and 4th place. But if you look at the per capita income of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, they are really performing miserably. And they are not comparable to Odisha and Chhattisgarh. Of course, Chhattisgarh is somewhat closer, but Jharkhand is no way to comparable in terms of per capita income. But instead of low per capita income, these states are having very high per capita carbon emission in the country. The carbon emission is largely driven by the mining and metal-based industry. Although the distribution of benefits from mining industry is pretty low, because of low employment opportunities, their pollution distribution is quite high. And in fact, last couple of weeks ago, actually, we saw that Bhubaneswar city also recorded very high level of pollution because of these thermal power plants and industries in Odisha. So, keeping in view of the growth of mining and metal-based industries, the pollution load may increase in the region, which will be probably driven by Odisha, because in Odisha now a lot of investment is happening in the mining and metal-based industries. So this pollution load may increase if we don't correct our paths. Even though economic cost of thermal energy is pretty low, in fact, the per unit electricity coming from thermal is about 2.5 rupees. But if you take into consideration the social cost of carbon, which includes all the health hazards and all that, so we get broadly two estimates. One is provided by Environmental Protection Agency USA and another is IPCC. So the social cost of carbon is really very high. So economic cost is only 2.5 rupees per unit, but the social cost is roughly 800 rupees if you take the Environmental Protection Agency's cost. And if you take the IPCC cost per unit, it will be more about 1,000 rupees. So, the social cost of other electricity is negligible compared to the thermal energy, including nuclear energy has in fact quite low social cost. And Odisha's mineral and metal-based industries may lose the comparative advantages with serious consideration of the carbon border adjustment mechanism by the European Union. These things have been covered recently by different media, particularly after the COP28 discussions. And we are exporting a lot of minerals to other countries, and if this carbon border adjustment mechanism will be implemented seriously, then Odisha may also lose this comparative advantage, and then we may not be able to export our minerals to many of these countries. So Odisha's mineral and metal-based industries may lose this comparative advantage. And Odisha's ranking in NISER's State Energy and Climate Index is at 16th place. So that means, they have recently come up with a report and they are trying to track the energy transition of all the states. And they have ranked 20 major states of the country. And in that energy transition and climate index, Odisha is ranked in 16th among the 20 states. So that means we are not doing well in energy transition. So this index actually includes the parameters like our discounts, performance, then access, affordability and reliability, and then we have clean energy initiatives, then energy efficiency, environmental sustainability, new initiatives. So these are the parameters considered in the energy transition index and climate index. And in this, Odisha is not really performing well, and I have already told you that Odisha is ranked in the carbon emission is second highest in the country. So in this context, we need to act swiftly to move the carbon emission burden of Odisha from energy sector. And but how do we do this? What would be the just energy transition path for Odisha? The energy transition requires interdisciplinary expertise, starting from the scientific and technological understanding to the social, economic, behavioral and governance aspects of the energy transition. The key objectives of this policy dialogue is to bring all the stakeholders together to discuss the challenges ahead and find out a workable solution. As a scientific institution, DST CPR at NISER is going to bridge this gap across the disciplines and provide a workable solution to the policymakers. Over these 2 days, we are going to listen from various energy scientists, policymakers, industry experts about the pros and cons of alternative energy sources and their technical and economic feasibility for adoption. It will provide a scientific basis to arrive at the optimal energy basket for Odisha and other eastern Indian states. Let me highlight some important questions for the discussion. We need to seriously think about the coal-powered captive power plants in Odisha. will nuclear energy be the future of energy source, or metal-based or heavy industries in Odisha? Can rooftop solar energy fulfill the household and agriculture energy needs of the state? Should we involve the Panchayat Raj institutions and urban local bodies to promote the solar energy? And why I am saying this? Because when you started the LED bulbs, you guys distributed through PDS also, with a lot of subsidy. And Panchayat Raj institutions have played very important role to achieve this energy transition towards the LED bulbs. So that's why I am still hopeful that PRIs and ULBs can be involved, and we are going to release a policy brief, and probably you have understood that we have not really taken into consideration these institutions. Can we rely upon the carbon capture use and storage technology? Because Odisha uses thermal power, so is this technology mature enough? Can we rely upon the green hydrogen? My colleagues will be discussing about this. And I am aware that Power Phosphate Limited and other industries have started using some amount of green hydrogen. And so there will be some discussion on these issues. What is the future of grids with the adoption of multiple renewable energy sources? I came to know that when you go for this rooftop solar energy, this creates a lot of noise in the grid system. So can you really connect all the households with the grid, which creates a lot of noise in the grid? And we have electrical engineers from Bhubaneswar who will be talking about the future of the grid and how we resolve these issues. So today, as we celebrate the birth anniversary of one of the greatest revolutionaries, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, I feel we need to take revolutionary measures like Netaji used to adopt, particularly for energy transition. So we have to. We cannot say that we have to go very slow. We have to really think seriously and take revolutionary steps. And so that we can reduce the burden of the carbon emission. And I really look forward to a very productive discussion over these coming days. And again, at the end, I thank all of you for being here. And so with that, I end my speech. So thank you so much, sir. I think before we proceed further, may I request our dignitaries to release a few reports, especially two policy briefs that we have prepared. And then we can get into other things. So, I'll also call Professor Sanjeev please, from NCAER to come here, and Professor, and right. So, these are the policy briefs we have prepared from our DST Center for Policy Research. This is on electric vehicles. So, this is on rooftop solar energy. These are also available on our website. Yes. And this is the report of NCAER, where also I am one of the co-authors. So this is challenges and policy implications of a low carbon power plant for Odisha. Sanjay Poet and team. Yes. Thank you so much.
You can take this question.
So may I now request the director of NISER, Professor Bose, to address the gallery.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. This is a very interesting topic actually, which is currently everybody is looking for energy transition. Just now in the morning, I got the news that we have beaten Hong Kong Stock Exchange Now we are the fourth largest stock exchange in the country, in Asia. It was Hong Kong is now $4.27 trillion, and now India become $4.33 trillion. The question is that earlier we should think about energy means what? Like domestic use, electricity, homes, fan, or maybe vehicles or electric vehicles and stuff like that, and some industries. Now, if India is looking for largest economy down the line in the world, energy is required very much. I mean, China is doing great job, but the carbon emission is very, very large, and also we are targeting net zero by 2070, so we have to work very differently. I mean, the time is not much before we wake up properly and start doing all this. Now, if you think like personally I'm a solar energy researcher. I do a lot of ultra spectroscopy, many devices, quantum dot, and many other solar cells. The solar cell has its own problem because I am coming to this here where I am from Nuclear Institute, originally from DRC. Not that I am going to talk in favor of nuclear, but it's very, very important nuclear. So you can see, like when you talk about the cost calculation, and that you were suggesting about the social stuff, like you generate a lot of carbon dioxide and health hazards. If you calculate that, then this kind of energy, per unit money what counts actually, it will be nuclear will be much lower. At the same time, we cannot build only based on only nuclear reactors. So we should have an energy basket where everything has to be there. And in particular, as we are talking about the East India, where the states are pretty much relatively poorer now. Odisha is doing a great job, and it will keep doing a great job. And as we are thinking about that, India will be one of the largest economies, so energy requirement is very large, and we have to really figure out how to manage this energy. Anyway, fossil fuel we do not have much, and the solar cell it has its own problem because the battery has to be there, or as you were suggesting that there is a problem, you put this stuff in the grid. So I mean, the time has come, and in particular, I think Sir can tell better. Like I think in the eastern part we do not have a nuclear reactor, right? This is something I don't know. I always wonder like why the eastern India does not have any nuclear reactors. This is one of the reasons actually. If at any cost, the eastern part have a couple of nuclear reactors, which government of India is thinking very seriously, I think this problem can be solved. I mean, Odisha might be having a lot of minerals, but it creates a lot of pollution. And down the line, energy requirement should be very, very high in the entire country, and particularly the eastern part of the country, because where labor force is much cheaper. So eventually, I'm sure that here a lot of avenues will be there and opportunities there. So down the line, you have to think seriously. And this deliberation, I'm saying, coming 2 days, I mean, all the experts will give a lot of their views, and eventually we'll start finding a solution. We cannot say that we'll find a solution tomorrow, but yeah, I think this is the right way to do things. And thank you very much. I'm very happy that this meeting is happening in NISER, which is basically Added Institute of Department of Atomic Energy. And atomic energy is such an organization, they are ready to solve any problem, whether it's energy, health, or food problem. So why not this problem also? Thank you very much.
Now may I request Dr. Satyapraya, Director of Budget, Government of Odisha, to address this. In fact, he actually is the right man because, in fact, before organizing this event, I went to his office and then we had very interesting discussion because he's handling the finance, so he knows where the money is going, and he is also a physics person, so he knows the science of the energy. So may I request Dr. Satyapraya, who is IS, to address us and tell us how Odisha is doing and what is the situation of Odisha.
Thank you. Odisha, when the state's name Odisha comes, we are actually sitting over a huge mineral reserve that includes almost 1/3 of coal reserve in the country. So traditionally, thermal power has been a kind of major source of power which have been generated for use by different states. And Odisha being hub of a huge coal reserve, a number of thermal power stations are located in Odisha. It is not only meant for meeting the need of the state. We are actually generating to provide power to many other states as well. So dependence on the thermal power stations of Odisha is related to many states. It's not whatever is generated or whatever pollution is or carbon is emitted, it's not for the consumption of the within the state. So that is one aspect we have to understand. And what statistics says, we contribute to say 3% of the national GDP, but our emission is roughly around 9% of the country's GDP. So, one aspect I want to add is that when there are a lot of thermal power stations, there are a lot of extractions and related activities. Actually, mining sector contribute around 10 to 11% of our GDP. We have to also remember that. So, yes, there is a need for transition, but it has to be a kind of gradual, and we talk about a basket. So, maybe in long term, how to move to a situation where we try to add more RE or low emission energy to the basket, but immediately reducing or making the thermal power zero will not be a very viable solution, because a lot of kind of livelihood is dependent upon that, a lot of economic activity is related to that. So that is one challenge that is with Odisha. And at this point of time, if we compare the total energy basket of the state, around 64% is from thermal only. And if we can actually do one thing, the best thing we can do is we should not add any more thermal to the existing basket. So that is one thing, and we can add more other sources of energy. So there are many options, like solar is right now is the cheapest option, and of course the kind of radiant that is available in Odisha is not very conducive for thermal, but nevertheless it can be upgraded. So when we plan to go for solar kind of stations, it requires a lot of land space and all those things. It becomes cheaper for Odisha to actually take thermal power from other states like Rajasthan, solar power from Rajasthan and Gujarat, rather than generating it inside the state. There are certain other options like storage facility. We have battery storage facility. It needs to actually emerge. A lot of work needs to be done in that area. There are alternatives like green hydrogen, green ammonia, or even pump hydro storage, pump hydro projects. So Odisha has a great potential of having PHPs, pump hydro storage, because you can use the solar energy to lift the water to and reuse that water for generating, and that also can help generating power which can meet the peak demand. So solar is available during daytime, but when there is not adequate facility for storage, it is always difficult to get power for the peak demand, and this PHP can be a solution for the peak demand. And also there are 6 major sectors which actually contribute to the carbon emission. Let me also put forward here 1 or 2 initiatives the state government is taking up. One is, Odisha is the first state in the country which has been preparing a climate budget. So we have been preparing a climate budget from 2018-19. And in that exercise, we are actually tagging the sectors which have been identified in the National Action Plan for Climate Change and subsequently State Action Plan for Climate Change. The respective schemes to the kind of sensitivity and relevance from environment point of view. And this year actually we are trying to do an interesting exercise which is called carbon budgeting. So none of the states they have done it so far, and we are planning to go for a carbon budgeting exercise where 6 major sectors are being identified, and the emission level will be worked out, and there will be a roadmap which will be maybe long term, then it will be converted to a medium term and short term goals. And because that exercise needs a lot of brainstorming, and I actually find many experts in this room. Probably after this seminar I can talk to some of them. Maybe we can seek some technical support from their side in that exercise. We are looking for technical support from different people, different agencies. We have been trying to actually break the ice for last 2 to 3 months. We have reached a certain level, but still we are lacking a genuine expert who can actually give us a proper guidance how to move in this direction. In fact, Government of Odisha for last 4-5 months they have been working on an energy transition plan. There have been few rounds of discussion, and there was also a consultative workshop. So that transition plan the department has already prepared with the help of experts, and formally it is likely to be published maybe very soon. And optimal energy basket is I think is the proper word which we should aspire for, and we also need to look at the livelihood aspects and the kind of contribution to the economy, and of course the challenge which was mentioned over here is that when these metal-based industries, if they are produced using this fossil fuel-based energy, the acceptability globally is not going to be there. So we have to look that into consideration, and this energy transition plan is very important for the entire country and for Odisha as well. And for Odisha it is even more important because our emission level is much higher than the national average, and as you already mentioned, we are per capita emission is second highest in the country. So looking forward to this workshop, and definitely will take a lot of positives from this work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Member Atomic Energy Commission, Member of India, to address the health. Sir.
Thank you, Amarendra. Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, distinguished members of NISER faculty and the participants present here. I'm very happy today to see that this particular group on energy transition in Eastern India, or rather NISER, is working on this topic of energy transition. It was something which I've been telling NISER now for the last more than 5 years, that this is a topic which is very important and it should be taken up, and to see this particular workshop here and participating in this workshop is something I'm very happy about. And this is a problem, this is an issue which one has to look at global level, at national level, and at regional level, basically at all levels. Because as just now Dr. Rath indicated that this is linked to livelihood. So regional approach is very important when we try to think in terms of energy transition. When we talk of energy transition, I think I will make a very simple statement to start with. That is, net zero needs all low carbon technologies. All technologies, whether we know today, are able to give us energy at zero carbon or very low carbon emission. And the current level of technological development, these technologies which give us that kind of energy are, if I speak in an alphabetical manner, hydro, nuclear, solar and wind. Tomorrow as development proceeds, there could be some more, and I see coal with carbon capture, once it becomes commercially viable, will be also included in this list, but these 4 are definitely there. India has made formal announcements with regard to uh, decarbonization, but at the same time, India has to develop. Uh, this, I think, as Professor Ghosh said right in the beginning, that today's stock market indices tell us that we have reached the National Stock Exchange has become the fourth largest globally, and this will keep happening. The way our economy is growing, way energy demand is growing for the last several years. If you see CAGR of energy demand, that is something remarkable, and this growth rate has been quite significant. On this, I tell everyone who is working in this area to download energy statistics, which is published by Government of India in the month of March every year. The kind of data which is available in that book is remarkable, and since it is collected by a government agency, that is one thing one should look at. That it is published by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Many of you must be already looking at it, but that is something which we should examine. So when we look at all the pronouncements which are being made at the national level, we note that evolution of energy mix for this current decade has been decided with the government, but what is to follow after 2030, there are no announcements or nothing perhaps has been worked out. Even in the academic domain, there is dearth of studies with regard to evolution of energy mix. I think when we say net zero in 2070, we have to develop various scenarios. And remember one thing, when we are talking about net zero, we are not talking net zero with regard to energy. We are talking about economy-wide net zero. One has to distinguish between energy sector reaching net zero and economy-wide net zero. This gap in academic studies needs to be filled up and has to be addressed by integrating several perspectives, namely the development needs of the country, indigenous energy resource profile, availability of technologies and their supply chain. I distinguish technology and supply chain because in case of photovoltaic, supply chain is not in India. This is something important gap area which we have. So technologies and supply chain, trained human resources, further evolution of policies and associated social impacts of energy transition. And developments on the international front have to be viewed critically, and some recent developments on the international front need very careful evaluation. And one development which is going to hit us very hard, and particularly state of Odisha where mining industry is concentrated, is introduction of CBAM, that is Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism by the EU, is very, very important development. This development is a challenge to the mantra of common but differentiated responsibility which has been followed at the global level so far. The UK and the USA are also working on similar lines, ostensibly in response to the announcement by EU, but we have to see what kind of announcements they come up with. The evolution of CBAM by the developed countries is even a challenge to the centrality of UNFCCC mechanism for decision making. Just by introducing CBAM, whatever is going on under series of conference of parties over the years, they have challenged that. Actually, they are doing something which is going to affect the global energy transition. The developed world would come up with some other tools as well to retain its pole position in the global economy, and as a result of this challenge which has been posed, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, she was talking to correspondents on 7th December, and she called CBAM as non-moral. But this is something we have to deal with. They have made the announcement, but we'll have to deal with it. These developments lend urgency to evolve an energy mix that is predominantly based on low carbon energy technologies that are mature today, whose supply chain is by and large within the country, research of course has to continue to develop technologies for the future. Here hydrogen has to play a key role in decarbonizing hard to abate sectors like steel and cement industries and fertilizer industry. And estimates for the final energy consumption, that is FEC, have been made in some academic studies, including one estimate which has been made by my group along with my PhD students. So here we try to follow a very simple method, try to correlate HDI versus final energy consumption, and based on regression analysis, the correlation which came, try to develop the energy requirement based on that. So assuming that India will achieve a HDI of 0.9 by 2070, we try to estimate the energy requirement, and then we notice that total energy requirement in 2070 based on various scenarios which we built will be 3 times the energy requirement today, or 3+ times. About 60% of this requirement, which comes out to be around 14 to 15,000 terawatt hour, will be used as electricity, and the rest will be in the form of hydrogen. Some hydrogen will be produced by biomass, urban waste, etc., and some by, or rather mainly by electrolyzers using electricity. And if all of it, assuming it is produced by electrolyzers, requirement of electricity will be additional 9 to 10,000 terawatt hour. The total energy requirement will be about 24,000 terawatt hours. This will be electricity requirement minus whatever is coming from biomass and urban waste, and that amount will not be significant. There are similar estimates by one more agency, but I find here something very, very peculiar. Most of the people working in this sector are shying away to say that India will have a HDA of 0.9. These estimates are based on 0.8, 0.75, thinking that India will never go to 0.9. On the other hand, when I read the social science literature, they are saying by 2050, 2060, India will have a SDI of 0.9. This you see carefully note all studies published by International Energy Agency are talking about transition. We have to talk about development and transition. SDI currently at 0.645 or 65 something has to move from 0.65 to 0.9. Do not go by the estimates of India International Energy Agency. Use their data. They are very good in collecting past data. But when it comes to their projections by India, look at critically at the assumptions they have made. This is my suggestion to all researchers. So we have to, again I say that develop as well as decarbonize. SDI, we should aim at 0.9. We are a part of at G20 group of countries. I think half the countries of G20 group have a HDI above 0.9. Why not India? We should aim for that. Maybe, if not in 2050, as many social scientists have predicted, we will reach there at 2070, 2080. But we should aim for that so that we plan our energy mix accordingly. This meeting these twin objectives of decarbonization and economic growth is very challenging. The complexity of this challenge can be gauged from the energy white paper published by the UK. UK is only talking of decarbonization. We are talking of developing and decarbonization. I quote from this UK report. We have modeled 7,000 different electricity mixes in 2050 for 2 different levels of demand and flexibility and 27 different technology and cost combinations. This is the kind of effort which UK has done just for transition. But development and transition together, you can see the academic studies which are needed, and I find this is an area which requires capacity building in the country. So many groups should be working, diverse group means diverse thinking will come into play,
and this diversity will try to tell us what are the solutions forward. Here, those who work with integrated models for forecasting energy growth, they use various constraints at the input stage, and these constraints try to limit contribution of one technology and try to favor another technology. So when you see the studies by various agencies, particularly those agencies in India who are funding from lobbies from outside, carefully look at the constraints which have been used at the input stage. The results are modulated accordingly. And recently I worked with 2 different studies where these constraints we removed, and we found the results are coming out to be different. I think here particularly find that nuclear has to play an important role in the energy mix to achieve economy-wide net zero by 2070. And I again emphasize diversity has to be built in our energy mix, because diversity provides against security against disruptions. I think one point just was made by Professor Gold that why nuclear power plants in India have not been sited in the eastern region. Everything is coming in the other places. When we started the nuclear program, the idea was to choose sites which are away from coal mines, so that coal transportation can be avoided. So you should take, if you see this coal belt area of Odisha, Jharkhand, West Bengal, where the coal mines are concentrated, all over sites beginning from Kota and Tarapur and Puzhatalam, they are all at a distance, they will come on a arc. That is a reason why we have not done that. But now, of course, situation is changing. We have to build nuclear power plant in this area as well. I think when I say again emphasize on diversity, for example, we say, can we achieve 100% based on solar or wind? The answer is no, we should not even aim at that. In case of solar, one thing which we have to note, there can be a continuous inclement weather for several days, which in English they call as dark doldrums, which can be there. If I read in Hindi, in North India, we call it, it's winter, it happens continuously for several days. Posh ki jhadi. I think similar word will be there in Odia also, that in certain months continuously you can't see sun for several days. So under these circumstances, can we rely only on solar? Similarly, wind energy in India is available. Wind energy in India is available only during the monsoon season. In the rest of the time, the wind is not available. So one has to have a diverse mix of various sources, and one should look at, there is another issue which is very important. The current narrative which is has been popularized by renewable lobby amongst public is they always talk of levelized cost of energy generation. Levelized cost of energy generation is a very simple metric devised by energy economists at a time when intermittent sources were not there. It has no parameter to account for intermittency. So it tends to over-predict the benefit of renewable sources. So currently everyone is advocating we should look at the full cycle cost and differentiate between cost of generation and cost at the generation end versus cost at the consumer end. Between the generator and the consumer lies a large electricity system, and the system controller ensures always that demand and supply match. So if solar is not available, some other source has to come up. So this particular aspect comes up only when we do system-wise studies. That in case of LCOE, levelized cost of electricity generation, we should think in terms of levelized full system cost of electricity generation, LFSCOE. Unless we do that, the full cost of energy will not come up. And moment we do that kind of analysis, we find, and a very recent publication I was reading, that even when the storage cost comes down by 90%, renewables will continue to be expensive as compared to dispatchable sources. So this aspect is very important. Uh, so, so far electricity and rest of the energy systems were being treated separately. When we think of economy-wide net zero, that will mean we have to use electricity to produce hydrogen, because solar, wind, hydro, nuclear, they generate electricity. I am talking about today's level of technology. Tomorrow we'll have a different technology scenario will change. But at today's level of technology, which is known to us, these sources produce electricity. So everything has to be electrified. That means the industry where we were using carbon as a molecule for reduction, for example, reducing iron ore to iron, or as for generating using natural gas as syngas in fertilizer industry, everywhere hydrogen has to come. So we have to use electricity directly or electrified product like hydrogen or hydrogen derivative, could be ethanol, dimethyl ether. They will have to be used. Now we have to analyze this system as a whole: electricity generation, production of hydrogen, storage, and use of all these products in the industry. Something which is the current policy, the way it is going on in the country, is something which has to, in my view, evolve. We are looking at storage and hydrogen generation as two separate things. But moment we look at them together, which in a recent study my group looked at, we can choose low-cost electrolyzers to produce hydrogen rather than storage. Whenever there is an excess generation, we produce hydrogen. So rather than storage currently is expensive, while inclined electrolyzers are cheap. So capital cost can be minimized if we use this storage and hydrogen as a combination, so that we don't have to curtail renewable generation whenever it is excessive, or we don't have to ask dispatchable generation to do flexing in response to demand. So basically hydrogen generation should be used to shape the demand in such a manner that we can minimize the cost of generation. The hydrogen we need for industry. Government is saying so much of hydrogen is needed. So why not use hydrogen generation to shape the demand such that we can optimally use all our generation sources.
So another issue which is becoming very important is grid stability. Here one issue is storage. There is another issue. Everyone who has studied physics at school stage will know that any rotating component, the inertia helps in stabilization. So when we have synchronous machines in nuclear power plants and coal-fired power plants, whenever any changes in demand is there, the rotating inertia of these large machines or turbines and generators is able to stabilize the grid. But moment we come to solar and wind, they are asynchronous machine. They simply either they are generating or not generating. There is no question of their coasting down in response to demand. That inertia is not available. So one has to provide synthetic inertia. So all that is doable by technology, but it adds to cost. So studies indicate that to ensure grid stability, about 20% dispatchable source like nuclear is necessary. Otherwise, grid stability will become a bigger and bigger problem, and the cost will keep going up. Here now, I think this is a topic on which I can keep speaking, but I think no time is limited, so I'll try to close down. So my submission here is all energy economists should not forget second law of thermodynamics. Without that, one cannot proceed further. Second law of thermodynamics or biophysical constraints, if I put it in another way, are necessary to be examined by all energy economists. And I think I have seen only one book for undergraduate economics which takes care of this aspect. It tries to integrate biophysical constraints in the economics, and this is something which the student of economics should read. Just to give one example, We always talk of how much money we invest, how much money is returned. So let us talk of energy return on energy invested. So that means we do life cycle analysis of a given method of generation of electricity. Let us take about solar. You need energy to manufacture solar cells. Then you get something out of those solar cells. So if we do life cycle analysis and try to see what is the energy return on energy invested with regard to photovoltaic cell, you will come up with a certain number. You can do the same thing for, say, hydroelectric power plants. When the dam is constructed, cement, steel, everything goes into that, and those also require energy inputs. And this kind of analysis indicates that EROI is very high for hydro, for coal, for nuclear, but for solar, for wind also it is high, but for solar it's very critical at about 10. So moment this EROI for a society comes below about 10, 11, the gain to society of given method of energy generation comes down. EROI for solar was very low. It has improved over the years. Now it is about 10, where just they are able to maintain. And again, economic studies which I have read, they tell me that for a society to survive, EROI has to be, for society-wide EROI has to be about 11, 12 in that range. So this aspect also has to be examined by energy economists. And then we have to remember that after reaching net zero in 2070, we have to maintain it. It is not that that's the end of the story. The energy mix will continuously keep on evolving as we proceed further. There has to be electricity available 24/7, and in many parts of sort of rural areas and even urban areas, electricity is not available 24/7. About a year back, there was a statement of from National Capital Region, Gurgaon is a part of it, and the person's head of the authority, they are saying that we are able to supply electricity only for 23 hours. And if you want to be a software hub and get electricity by 23 hours, that is not the way forward. So I'll end up by saying that the present energy infrastructure has been developed over the last 3 centuries. So change will be gradual, as Dr. Rath also indicated. It will take time to evolve a new infrastructure, and it has to be so evolved that we are able to pay attention to all sections of society. We must remember that technology is developed by what is called combinatorial evolution. Several combinations have to come together. You know, the internet started long time back, and the industries based on internet are still evolving. A similar combinatorial evolution will play a role in the case of energy transition as well. And we have to ensure that we have acceptance of society along with development of technology. As society, we have to take along. So as I think one person remarked earlier, it has to have an interdisciplinary approach. I think you said that all disciplines have to come together and proceed further in this direction. And I think this particular workshop, which has been arranged by NISER, is a good step in that direction. Thank you.
Speech on all the aspects of energy. Okay, so now I invite Professor Agnes Gupta, Secretary SCRB and Senior Advisor and Head Department of Science and Technology, to address the gathering. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Host, Director, NISER, all the distinguished participants of this conference. I think we are moving this discussion at a very initial juncture. I think the entire world is facing a very big challenge. Climate change has become a biggest threat of the entire humanity. level of 1.1 degree centigrade increase from the pre-industrial era, and we are very soon, this is the prediction given by NPCC, within 2 decades we will be crossing 1.5 degree centigrade. It looks very small number, but it has much big implication. 1.5 degree centigrade is also kind of threshold that scientists have estimated that beyond that, we may go to a point of beyond reach, we cannot come back. And that will amount to several other impacts. We are going to have more intense rainfall, going to have more heat waves, and also drought. And let me tell you, we have done lot of studies on Odisha, and I being a weather forecaster. Odisha is one state that has extreme drought, extreme floods, cyclones, even heat waves. So everything is extreme in Odisha, and we have so much of variability from coast to interior. So, in fact, the poverty in Odisha is very unique. You have very rich people or we have very poor people. So climate change has a very unique impact. It will impact poor like anything. Because the poor will not have the capacity to adopt. Now, India has done well in the energy transition last, I would say, 1 decade or maybe a little more. Again, making good effort to have renewable energy included as the total energy mix. In fact, the share is increasing with years, and now it really reached 40% of the total installed capacity. And we are globally, fourth position in terms of renewable energy, also in wind and solar. So this is a good kind of development and good progress that India has made in recent years, and so we can claim to be leader in this area. But I think it is already elaborated. We have much more daunting task than what we have been facing earlier. With India's declaration or announcement of Panchamrit at the COP26, the 5 commitments that India has made to the world, some of them are really very tough to achieve. While others, other commitments like 500 gigawatt of non-fossil electricity capacity by 2030, 50% of energy requirement from the renewable energy by 2030, 1 billion tons of emission reduction by 2030, and the emission intensity to be reduced to 45% by 2030. These all 4 are achievable. Because in fact, we are giving, we might achieve them much before 2030. But what is most, I would say, challenging among all these 5 is the net zero emission by 2070. Already, in fact, growers have already elaborated in detail. But let me tell you, there is a study done by India Sectoral Energy Transition and Climate Policy. I think some of you might have read this. They have analyzed that what does net zero entail for India in terms of what kind of energy scenario. So as it has been said already that India's energy requirement is going to be 3 to 4 times than the present level. I mean that is in fact much modest estimate. Some estimates say that it can be even 6 times of the present. The reasons are that like today our energy consumption is nearly 1000 watt per year as compared to 10,000 watt per year by US. So we are already 10% of what the most advanced country has. So and India is in fact is a very unique development state. Our human development is much at the much behind the global human development level. And therefore, if we have to have high human development and come closer to the global best countries, then our energy requirement will go up like anything. So that's why I'm saying that the estimates are that if suppose we come closer to Western world, our energy requirement will be at least 6 times of the current. That being the case, now how are you going to match the requirement that we have already posed, that is net zero by 2027. It is going to be really low. So the estimates are that we are going to have to increase, we need to increase our renewable energy by nearly 10 to 15 times of the present level. 5,600 gigawatt is the energy renewable energy requirement for 2027. We also need to drop our coal requirement, coal usage by nearly 90%, and oil requirement by nearly 80 to 90%. So that is going to be very, very difficult to achieve. But India, in fact, is still, and in fact, the data presented by you already suggests that in fact, Eastern India, especially the Eastern India, even now the heavily depends on the non-renewable sources energy. In fact, as much as 90% dependence in some states. Odisha is much better, at least you have only like 77% dependence on when you have good renewable energy index. So, again, in India, you will have a lot of variability. The Western India will have better, when they will have the capacity to have more renewable energy generation. And I think very rightly said by Sir Grover that, India has a unique climate conditions. So you can't have energy generation, renewable energy generation everywhere uniform. And that is the reason why there is an inequality between Eastern and Western India. Western India can have more solar energy. Because Eastern India will have longer period of cloudiness in the monsoon. Similarly, the Western India has more wind energy potential because the monsoon more dominant in the western coast compared to the eastern. But of course, you have cyclones and all, but they are extreme level. The sustained energy, wind energy can be tapped only from the flow that is more sustainable. Now, this being the case, the role of the energy source also become very different. So mentioned that green hydrogen is what possible, but how far and how much the green energy can be produced, green hydrogen can be produced. Hydrogen also has other issues. It has issues of storage, very serious issue, and storage, also serious issue of transportation. We in fact have several transportation vehicles tested on with hydrogen. There is one which is set up by NCAER, and NCAER has demonstrated that hydrogen can be used for transportation. But still the government is just to clear, give the kind of clearance for that, when such a thing can be. So there are serious issues with the transportation and storage. Electric vehicle has its own problem. You have problem with the charging, you have problem with batteries. The lithium ion is not very sustainable in the tropical region. So you need sodium and aluminum and other options. That's the charging, as I said, is a serious issue. Long charging of electric vehicle is not very kind of sustainable way of doing it. So we need swapping of batteries issue. In fact, DST has worked a very kind of exhaustive study on this, and we came out with some standard swapping of the batteries. But more importantly, electric vehicles need charging, and charging means use of electricity. So how far this can be used and this is considered as renewable? But again, you are putting power on the thing, so that therefore the EV is not a true replacement, and it is estimated inside by that in the contribution from EV cannot exceed the upper limit, other than 19% of the total energy needs by the person. So that is the upper limit that can be possible for the transport sector. So we have very serious issues on this. Also, there is issue about the kind of funding from UNSCCC, the annex 1 countries to India. And India was expecting something like $1 trillion as climate fund, as per the Paris Agreement. And we hardly received less than 1 billion. So basically, there is a serious issue on the fund to India. Whatever actions that have been taken in the renewable energy area, they are all by internal success from the government of India funding. One good trend that you see that good number of private sector coming forward and investing into this and working in PPP with India, with government of India. It is a good sign of development in this area. But I would say the task is very, very daunting, and especially for the eastern India. And let me put it that the areas that all these states are, like eastern and northeastern states, are going to have very serious issue on this. The energy requirement in these areas is very low. Right? If these areas to become developed, then they need the requirement will go several fold high. I'm so glad to see Odisha is emerging as one of the leaders in the eastern state. Per capita income is highest. You have total installed capacity of renewable energy is also highest, and per capita energy consumption is also higher. So per capita energy consumption is an indicator of development, and the percentage of energy, solar energy and the other renewable energy is also quite high for the state. But you have a way to go. It's not easy to reach that. Even if you see that, although you're doing a good job and you can set up, but still it's so much to do for India to become the globally competitive country. Now, I would say that, recently we had last year this G20. And as part of the G20, there was a group called the Research and Innovation Gathering Grouping. This group, in fact, I had the fortune of leading from SAR meeting. So the theme of RRIG was the energy transition. One of the key themes of this was energy transition. And it turns out that globally there is a consensus that R&D is the way forward. We need to focus on R&D, and there is going to be global cooperation in this area. And so this is another opportunity for states like Odisha to focus on R&D. And we need to have better efficiency. Efficiency in solar, in the wind, in other energy generation. Efficiency is the key to, because as I said, your energy requirements are going to be several times high, and your capacity of putting in place solar and wind is not that high. You need better efficiency to match, which is going to be very challenging, and so therefore let us focus on research and innovation in this area. Since much has already been talked, I am not going to go into more details of this thing, and I totally agree and echo the kind of expression given by other speakers. I would say India is going to face two big challenges. One challenge is the adaptation versus economic development. So if you are not economically developed, your adaptive capacity will be low. And a good example is the Eastern India, which is very poor in terms of economic status. In fact, recently we did a vulnerability study for the entire country, and we found that the entire East India is highly vulnerable to climate change because of one single reason, and that is economic prosperity. Is poor in terms of for a capital income. So this is a big challenge that we are going to face, adaptation versus economic development. If you are not economically developed, you have poor capacity to adapt to climate change, and therefore there will be greater impact of extreme events on such places, such kind of regions. So therefore you will have more economic loss, more human loss because of these impacts. So this is the climate creates divide, economic divide. If you are worthy of handling the climate, then your loss will be less. In fact, the loss is increasing with year and year. So in fact, roughly it is estimated that in India experiences something like 1% of the GDP loss per year due to disasters, which is huge. And much of this is in fact is being kind of experienced by Eastern India. And therefore, this is one big challenge we have to adaptation for economic growth, economic development. Because unless your human development index is up, you will not able to have this challenge. The second very important issue is the mitigation versus economic development, economic growth. So if you are planning, if you want to have more economic growth, which means, as I said, if your per capita consumption of electricity is going to become 10 times up from now, it will be very challenging to do mitigation. Because more economic growth means more emission. India will face this issue because the global rich countries, they already reached this stage. They already they are economically developed, and so their mitigation level has already reached the peak level. And sorry, their emission level has already reached the peak. India has reached that level, so it will continue to have more emission. Supposed to have more emission because of high economic growth. Now, with this challenge, you need to mitigate and achieve net zero by 2070 is really going to be difficult. At the end, I would say that the efforts that all of us are making in focusing on energy transition is really very, very welcoming, and we all must do. State and central must work together. The role of Center for Policy Research at NISER is very, very important. We need to debate on how do we achieve such transition, and the kind of stakeholders that have gathered today, they will be able to debate on these issues. All that the most efficient and the most proactive way of transitioning to the renewable energy is very, very critical for India's development. But keep in mind the sustainability and the economic growth of the country, but that is equally important than the environmental concern. So once again I thank NISER and the Center for Policy Research for inviting me, and I apologize that I could not make it in person. There are some personal commitments, and also in Delhi, it's very difficult to leave headquarters and go somewhere because there are two big challenges that the DST has recently been entrusted with. that is the National Quantum Mission was launched. So I am supposed to be overall in charge of the mission. And also there is a National Research Foundation which is launched, which again is supposed to spearhead. So there are every day some new developments and activities are here. So I apologize for not able to solve it. Thank you once again and for inviting.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable inputs. And now, with that, may I invite Dr. Pranay Kumar Swain, the chairperson of School of Humanities and Social Sciences, to have his remarks and offer a word of thanks.
I thought my task was cut out because the inaugural session, my role was basically to offer a word of thanks. But now, since I have to sit through the addresses of people like Professor Grover and Dr. Gupta, I'm kind of intrigued to say a little more than few words. I hate this uncertain elements of life, and I'm sorry, I mean, we had a very unfortunate thing. Our director had to leave because his sister just passed away. So I wanted to be purposefully not so cynical this morning, but now I'm forced to. Okay, so on a very unrelated note, I would drop a few metaphors here. We realize, we keep saying always that things take longer, things always cost more than anticipated. And what could be a better exemplification than we are already behind schedule, right? So no matter how hard we plan, no matter how meticulously we put things down, we always end up spending more and taking more time. Energy, I don't know. I mean, since we're talking about India, we all said, India is unique in many senses. Our climate is unique, our people are unique. There is another very unique thing is we are a bunch of very irresponsible with a big I, energy consumers. Talk a lot, but we never walk the talk. Our energy consumption pattern is very, very unique. And this uniqueness I'm not saying with pride. Okay. I thank first of all Professor Grover because since he talked about transition, let me take transition the term off track. We have transited from being, okay, I'll tell about myself, from being somebody who hated Professor Grover the most to being the one or ones who now loves him the most. And why I'm saying this, well, I'm sure he will take it to advantage himself. I'll give you a small genesis of this institute and the department. We, most of us are aware that NISER was conceived to be an institute of basic sciences to cater to the needs of creating a pool of scientific manpower for the knowledge economy of the country. Professor Grover, many of you may not be knowing, is the founder, director, it later became business, of Homi National Institute, to which all our academic programs are affiliated. So when we started off in 2007, our department, HSS, Humanities and Social Sciences, was just created to offer certain courses as a perspective building courses for the undergraduate MSc, integrated MSc students. As we moved on and we gathered some amount of strength, we went back to HPNI and asked, can we start our own research program? I mean, in the absence of a doctoral program, you don't do meaningful research. You can of course do research. So Professor Grover was like, okay, here's the roadmap. Do this, and then. And energy featured everywhere. I still am a poor sociologist. I don't understand energy the way he does. And I was like, let me do my sociology, and we have a couple of other faculty members who were doing literature. How do I actually force energy policy or economics or anything else into the scheme of things. Then came Amarendra and my job became actually easier. And thanks to Professor Grover now, because he was instrumental in actually creating a space for us to do research in whatever way we feel meaningful, by reorienting the erstwhile Board of Studies to applied systems analysis. And every time Professor Grover comes across a good article, he would always send me, or us rather. Thank you for being there all through. And I would not sound any cynical anymore. We talked about new knowledge, we talked about energy needs, how they vary across geography so significantly. And being in Western India, and since we are focusing on Western India, we are a bunch of people who sleep very early. That's not a problem. Problem is we don't wake up on time. We love having multiple naps during the day. So essentially what I'm trying to say is we are a bunch of lazy people. Let's be very honest about it. So what did work or what is actually working in other parts of the country, let's not talk about other parts of the globe, does not necessarily work in this part of the country. Our initial stab at the secondary literature on energy consumption and whatever tension we have in these 5 states, I'm sure will give us a lot of eye-opening facts. Facts and figures are something which I generally don't swear by, primarily because I'm a qualitative researcher. And the reason I believe why we check facts or take numbers so seriously is basically to see where we are positioned. And it's great to be ambitious, it's great to have great sounding plans to catch up with big daddies like, let's say, USA, China, but remember, they would not be standing there waiting for you to catch up with them. We evolved, we pat our back that we moved from 5th position to 3rd to 2nd. Those guys would not be waiting for you. They would keep on, adding new things and making more progresses. So thank you, Mr. Rath and Professor Grover for dropping few caveats. Essentially, the one that is what Professor Grover said, that we must actually drop our obsession with the data given by international agencies who do not necessarily factor in the assumptions, the realities of a country like a diverse country like us. Instead, they have their own assumptions to play by. Net zero may sound like a big jargon here. 2070 is far away from where we are right now. But as Professor Grover said, let's not worry about net zero. That may not actually become a reality ever. But let's work towards, let's plan towards, and converge or create a synergy towards working on something which will give us a more commercially viable and environmentally sustainable energy mix, or good diverse energy mix. So with this note, I know I took more than a few words. I thank all of you for being here, and in this not so cold winter, I can only appropriately offer you a very warm welcome. We have 2 days to do a brainstorming, several sessions of brainstorming. Things go good, thank Amarendra. If anything goes bad, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Professor Gupta, we conclude this inaugural session now, and we will move to the other sessions, but feel free to join with us to listen to our deliberations if you have time. Thank you so much, sir. And